And now we've come to the big boys. I mean, Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. Both guys now sitting 1-1 in the series, just at the absolute peak of the mountain when it comes to UFC, names, notoriety, skill. They're the top of the food chain, man. And that's why you can see guys like Dustin Poirier willing to relinquish, title fight opportunities to, settle the score with the Conor McGregor, which is not only a feel-good opportunity, but a make of the money's opportunity. And so when you look at the way these guys have come up in their careers, I thought, even I gave so much flack to Conor McGregor and the come up, but then you look at what he's done and how he's accomplished it. Everyone that he's fought, they break. It's kind of crazy because unless he finishes you early, he breaks you. And that's what made the Poirier fight, the second Poirier fight, so interesting, right? Poirier has gone on record saying himself that this wasn't a game plan where he just went in and tried to kick the guy's legs out from the start. He kicked him once and was like, oh shit, you don't like that. I'm going to keep kicking you. And that's exactly what he did. That's what happens at this level of fighting. I don't think you can just study a fighter and be like, okay, that's exactly how to beat him. I'm going to go do that in the octagon. That happens in very specific fights. When you get to this level, when guys have seen it all, done it all, and can literally do it all, it's a very interesting, matchup because now everyone's, jokingly talking about the Conor stance, right? They don't want to see him in this terrible, terrible looking stance that gets him all messed up. They want him in that long Conor, like flowy movement type of stance. I feel like Conor's gone back to his old self. That's what's made me kind of fall in love with him for this camp. Doesn't want to be on embeddeds, sold the proper 12, before all this took flight. He even said it himself. His previous training camp coming out of the Floyd Mayweather fight was all boxing. He actually thought that the Poirier fight was going to be a charity boxing fight, and then it ended up becoming his next UFC fight. So I'm not trying to give Conor excuses. I'm trying to paint the picture of if you're that big Conor fan, like most of this MMA world is, there is something for you to hold on to there. Let's take a look at Dustin again, right? He completely said, I just think I'm the better fighter, and he was able to figure that out on the fly. That's where those excuses from Conor can be taken as, with a grain of salt, because he did have 2 UFC fights in between the Floyd fight and the Poirier fight. And on top of it all, he probably hasn't looked worse than that Poirier fight in a very long time. In the Khabib fight, it's not like he looked bad. He took on probably one of the greatest fighters of all time. That's the difference here, is people are finding so many reasons to try and hate on Conor because he's just a guy that everybody has always loved to hate. But now I find myself on the other side of the coin being like, hey guys, relax. This is still Conor McGregor. Take a look at the tape. Take a look at the, evidence on hand. And it looks like you guys are just trying to really, really demonize a guy who actually tried to be very much a fan favorite, if not a Stephen Wonderboy version of himself in that second fight. So y'all asked for old Conor. I think you're about to get old Conor. And Dustin Poirier is not shaking in his boots one bit because I think he's a big guy for the division. I think that he has a lot of skill, man. The way he fought Hooker, for me, was just something where you got to see the heart and just complete game of Dustin Poirier's, stand-up. I think that when you come into this fight now, you look at how well he did against, Conor McGregor in the second fight. That's pretty much the peak of his career, man. Confidence-wise, he was there. Selection, movement, everything he did there was so cerebral and so well done that it was a perfectly fought fight. That's where I think, give credit where credit's due. Training camp or not, Dustin Poirier beat the shit out of Conor in that fight. And I think Conor learned a lot about not just where his MMA game is at, but where his life at is in general. If he wants to take on beasts that are in, the top 5 of the welterweight, lightweight, and maybe featherweight division where everybody fell in love with him at first. So I think that Conor, if he comes out in those, really good stance that everybody gets excited for, he avoids those areas where he really struggled, don't get taken down, avoid those leg kicks, use the movement, get him scared of your hands again. That left hand put him out before. That's what really made Conor so popular, right? It's just so cerebral, so in the moment. And I think he just didn't look like himself in that fight. Anyone could probably say it. And again, I'm not trying to take anything from Poirier, but it just didn't look like the same Conor. And I think that this fight's really going to bring out the best in both guys. And again, Poirier might look for that kick again, but I think he's very, very aware of the fact that that game plan is going to be figured out. And so switching that up on him, I think going for takedowns, doing a Khabib fight is a very, very good idea for Dustin. I think it would throw him off a little bit. And going back to what Poirier said in fighting Khabib, that was one of the tougher fights he's ever faced because you can actually sense how good these guys are on the ground. All about weight distribution, being 4 steps ahead of you. All of those things just make you a better fighter. And that's where I think that if Poirier, again, tries to think on the fly and sees things going very south, maybe in the striking department, looking for those takedowns, being a powerful guy with a good, BJJ game and probably a better ground game than Conor's, can start to exploit areas where, just like the calf kick, he can find success. That's what makes this fight so elite. That's what makes these guys 2 of the best fighters on the planet. And without further ado, let's check out the odds. Dustin Poirier better be a favorite on this fight, but at the same time, I don't think you can count out Conor McGregor. Let's get it close to a pick-em. Let's take a look. All right. Poirier opened as a -106, with Conor opening as a -116, with now Poirier being closer to a -125 to a -135, with Conor now hitting as high as a +117, +115 in some areas. Conor is officially a relative underdog in this fight, and I think that should get people even more excited. That's one of those lines I've talked about in the past where you see a guy like Conor just coming in as an underdog. Guarantee you there's people getting stupidly excited for that fight, and just because of that factor. All of the hoopla leading up to this is going to be amazing. Probably one of the better cards top to bottom across the board. I can't wait for it. We had a nice little hiatus there. Hope you guys enjoyed the show this week. We're going to be back next week. Keep an eye out for the fight picks on Instagram. Check the stories. If we can't get Instagram up and running, no worries. We're going to keep rolling with this. YouTube, here we come. TikTok, as always, check it out. SookyMMA. As always, peace.